Hi everyone, welcome to today's Jupyter contributor meeting. Today's Wednesday, February 4th, and we already have some items in the agenda. If you would like to sign in to in the notes, we have the HackMD link shared. Quite a few attendees today, so welcome everyone. It's great to see so many people here. I think up first, so it's the first meeting of the month. So we want to highlight any accessibility topics. So there is an item in the agenda that's just making a call out for the accessibility topics in case someone has something to add. Please feel free to either raise your hand or add yourself under that topic, and we can start off with you all. There's a comment by Lynn. So it looks like Isabel is not connected, but she's working on some accessibility topics. More updates to come. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think maybe I will mention something else, which is in uh, in an effort to kind of highlight accessibility topics and not just sort of like prioritize them if they are um, uh, brought up in a meeting. Maybe there's more we can do there where we might just go through some of the either issues or PRs that are tagged with accessibility or anything like that. If I'm just putting that out there as a thought because in these cases where we don't have any actual topics for accessibility, it might be worth doing something like that. And any comments on that?
I can share some. I'll share some links on what's going on the accessibility front in the notes, but I'll do this offline.
Okay. So I'm sorry. So in the notes, you mentioned you'll share some updates in the notes. Is
Yeah,
that
I don't
right?
have. I'll probably post some of the things that Isabel has been working on. I don't know whether all the PRs that she's been working on are open, so um, um, I'll update the notes so that it's reflected.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sylvain. I think um yeah, maybe this is something I can create an issue for or anything along those lines, just for the future host of the meeting on the first of the month. Like we can have maybe a goal of kind of highlighting accessibility in a different way, and can have some input from people. But in the interest of kind of moving forward with the agenda, I think again, if there are any accessibility topics that come up later, please highlight them and add them to the accessibility topic item, and we will circle back to that. I'll keep an eye out on it. Um, if there's nothing else to share, I think we can go forward with. I think there's some. I think first up is Sylvain with an announcement. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I just wanted to share that we have uh, just launched a new service called notebook.link. It is a free notebook sharing service that is built upon JupyterLite, Unscripted Forge, and Mamba to create permalinks to Jupyter notebooks that are runnable. If people are fine with it, I can do a quick demo of what this looks like. Okay. Okay, there it is. So if you connect to the notebook.link, you'll see a page, sorry, that pretty much looks like any normal, news website. There is some content promoted to the front page. I'm already logged in here, and what I'm going to do is create some new content and a permalink to it. So let's create a new software environment. Call it, let's say, include pandas, scikit-learn, and seaborn. And as I type, the environment is being resolved and created. I will call it the Jupyter meeting demo. Right, so my software environment is created. Now I can plug it into a new project, software, Jupyter meeting demo, enable some AI assistant, pick a nice picture, and launch my project. So normally, in the next second or so, I should be in Jupyter Lite with all of the required software installed. And I'm going to create a simple notebook with Jupyter AI. So I'm asking for a notebook with a scikit-learn example and a plot. So I hope that I'm lucky with demos today because sometimes the code that is created is invalid, but most of the time it works. All right. Then I run my notebook and I hope that it's a valid notebook. Right, it seems that I produced a nice plot. So I want to share this with the world. So I'm going to create a new public link from that. And instead of using JupyterLab, I will use the presentation mode. And now anyone clicking on that link, oh, it's not the right name. It's scikit-learn_notebook.exam.ipib. This
Did
is
you
the
say
demo
did
effect.
did you save it?
Maybe I did not save it. Yeah, I'm going to just recreate the link. And oh, because I just made another project before. So that must be it. Demo, scikit-learn example.ipib demo. Hopefully, this one has the notebook.
Didn't you update your snapshot after creating the file?
This is really a bad demo. I'm really sorry. Okay, let's start a new project. Demo with the Jupyter demo meeting demo example. Pick a nice logo. I launch it. Hopefully the code is valid. Seems to be a valid plot, a valid notebook. All right, I'm going to make my snapshot, then delete the old link. I don't know what happened. I had two things with the same name. And now anyone should be able to open that file and see the notebook. So I'm going to share it with everyone on the call. And presumably you should be able to see the same content as I. Now I'm going to change the type of link and turn it into a presentation mode. And now I have a blog view of the same content that is styled, similarly to a Medium blog, and which, can be more suitable for creating a blog post. So yeah, this is it. This is a very simple notebook sharing service that, you can use to create a notebook, create permalinks, create links as well to um, any notebook. And it's not just biodide. It can work with numerous languages. We have some really cool examples on the front page. One that I really recommend, for example, is the Jupyter Games demo, which includes some really cool examples of creating video games with JupyterLab. Oh, can you not see it anymore? Yeah, there it is. I'm trying to move the window beyond the zoom thing. Okay. And so you have a blog post with live widgets, and you can start playing with the game. So the games, this one is a simple pendulum demo. We also have a playable billiard. And all of this is created with, live Jupyter widgets and a Jupyter notebook. So this entire thing is a notebook. Yeah, with playable games. This also works with other programming languages like GNU Octave, C++, or all running in your browser and launched instantly. Yeah, so I saw there were some questions. So the AI assistant that we showed is Jupyter Lite AI, which is composed of many of the same components as Jupyter AI, but runs entirely in the web browser and makes calls to remote LLM providers rather than a server extension. And yeah, so in terms of timing, this really came at the same time as well as the transfer of Jupyter Lite to the Jupyter organization, which we are going to announce, which was voted upon in December, and that we're going to announce in the coming days on the Jupyter blog. So that's it.
That's very impressive. I can access the notebook and run everything. Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, I don't know what happened in the previous demo. I think I wrote a typo in the notebook name or something, but yeah. Okay. I don't want to take too much of your time, but um, this is not a notebook link meeting. This is a JupyterLab meeting.
Thanks, Sylvain. Yeah, I think
Actually, it's a Jupyter contributor meeting, right?
now a few projects, so I think we can move. We can head on over to Jason, who's up next in the agenda.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Sylvan, for demoing that. That's pretty exciting. I just wanted to follow up on the meeting discussion that we had last week about, at least in JupyterLab, we're pioneering this in JupyterLab, a way for people to notify that AI helped in a PR. This is our current text. Just wondered if people had any questions or suggestions or objections to us merging it in JupyterLab and sort of testing the wheels on how this works for disclosure of PRs that have AI help. You can see it in the notes, the text that's from the PR. So when a PR opens, this is one of the sections in the template. And we invite people to check the appropriate boxes and disclose AI models and tools.
I have a suggestion, maybe not the wording itself, but like if we use the checklist format, it will show that there's 3 tasks and there will be always some tasks which are not completed. So in a sense, we are abusing the how GitHub interprets the checklists. So I wonder if that would be like easier if we just had some or all of the code in this PR was generated by AI. Yes, no, which would also align possibly better with the rest of the PR template. But we can discuss that in detail on the review of the PR. This is like my main concern is that it introduces a new kind of syntax and it's quite verbose. If we can shorten it, I would kind of prefer a shorter version.
I absolutely agree with the checkbox idea that this all of a sudden makes every PR look like it's not quite finished because it has checkboxes instead of radio boxes, and it makes it a little more verbose. Great, we can workshop the text on the issue on the PR. Appreciate that feedback. Yes, Constantine suggests we also update agents.md to ask any agents working on a PR to disclose. Perfect. Any other suggestions?
So quick question. It would allow to like identify which PRs are AI produced and to which extent, and therefore kind of give more attention to them, so to speak, based on that.
What we would do with this information, I think, is still a little bit up in the air. Right now, we're just asking for disclosure. Like, sorry, I'm zeroing in on we can give them more attention. One thing it does is it encourages people to review their code by, in this version, having a checkbox that says, look, if you haven't reviewed your code, keep your PR draft, and you're expected to review our code so that people like Mike that come along later and say, can you look at your code? Or it helps us set expectations and point back to those expectations.
No questions about the I reviewed all code here checkbox. I think that's a really good one, and I'm clear what is the intention behind it and like what it drives. Like yeah, cool. Yeah, sounds good. Awesome. I added some comments there. We could discuss it later.
Excellent. Maybe... Any other feedback? Please comment on the PR. Thank you. The next issue, let's see, I volunteered Nick for this issue, but he's not on, so I'll take the issue. He has a PR to update Prettier in JupyterLab. This involves lots of formatting changes. This disrupts the existing open PRs, but we think you can just, update Prettier in your PR and run it, and automatically your PR then will match master. If you have an objection to merging this, it does mean that PRs will be harder to backport, but it's still early in the 4.6 cycle, so it's nice to get some of these disruptive changes in. I'm just calling attention to this PR. If you have any objections to merging it, please comment on the PR. overall, I think it brings a lot of nice readability and enhancements to the code base. Okay, Brizio, that's all from me.
Thanks, Jason. Mike is up next.
Okay. So this is also a follow-up from the last week discussion about AI, but this is about the Copilot reviews. So to remind folks who are not there, we decided to give a try, asking Copilot to review some of the PRs. It is in part motivated by the deluge of PRs of varied quality and just the capacity constraint on reviewers. And there are some lessons learned already. It hasn't been long, but I think in total, Copilot was used to review 16 PRs. Some of that happened before the last meeting. One lesson is that it is useful in couple of PRs. It highlighted bugs which we would not have found without further testing, and probably would have only found them during the beta testing. So I think at least when used by a human who knows whether to, if it is a good time to request a review from a Copilot, the noise to rule value ratio is it is promising. Now, I think this experiment was not perfect because I think I was the only person who was able to request the reviews from Copilot. Maybe Jeremy could, I don't know. What seems to not be working very well is that even for me, the assign a reviewer checkbox, it sometimes was not there. Like I couldn't use Copilot at some times. And for Jason, it was not working at all, which might be related just to whether one of us, like I have the license for Copilot Pro because I am a maintainer, and they assign these maintainer licenses to some folks, but not others, depending on some criteria that GitHub has. So if we wanted it to be like a part of the review flow, we would probably need to request some funds so that EC can enable Copilot access and review on PRs, requesting reviews on PRs using some pre-allocated sum of money to pay for the usage, because right now it's blocked on the enterprise level and we cannot do that. So that's one possibility. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know how good is evaluation if only one person does that. So I think this is a good next step to ask for. Literally, I don't know if $20 is enough to run this experiment, but a small amount of money that should be uncontroversial, and also potentially evaluate that on other repositories.
Well, I think the trial was a success if you're not like, let's turn it off. Instead, let's expand it. I think I saw that if you bill like the organization, it's something like 4 cents a review. So that's certainly uh, something that I think we can ask for funds to trial a little bit more. Andre, my understanding is they grant some maintainers Copilot Pro access, but the organization can also have Copilot access, and it first tries to see if the person has Copilot, and if it does, it uses their allocation, which would be the maintainer allocation for probably a lot of us who may have it, which I don't, but apparently Mike does. And then if the person doesn't have Copilot Pro, then it would be billed to the organization. I don't think we can ask. I don't know if they have the open source program for Copilot Pro for organizations. I think it's in a person basis.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Yeah, I must have it as a person. I definitely applied. It would be nice to have it as an organization. It would really solve the question of funding, right? Yeah, thank you.
Also, some of these settings, I believe, we ran into this previously because all of the repositories and organizations are under Jupyter Enterprise. It kind of clashes with some of the open source features of GitHub because Enterprise is a product that they built for enterprises rather than for open source. And sometimes these settings just do not cooperate. But yeah, let's see what we can do here. I saw that there is another code review service mentioned in the chat, called Rabbit. And last week I also mentioned a few others. Now, the problem with most of these services, as far as I've tried using them, is that it requires granting access to the repository or the organization with elevated privileges, which is a kind of a little bit more difficult decision compared to just using what is on the with Copilot. So if we like Copilot, but it turns out too expensive to run, and maybe we should try these alternative services. But first, it would be kind of good to have a consensus whether this is something that we want to use or not. So I'd say let's continue on the experimenting phase with the service that is attached to GitHub for now. But Konstantin, thank you for mentioning that. If you could add that to the meeting notes, I'm sure that it will come in handy later. So moving on to my next topic is a small update on the Jupyter Foundation community funding proposals. Because I'm engaged in 4, I created this tracking project on Jupyter.org, on JupyterLab organization. And for now, I'm using this. I'm using that tracking the 4 proposals that I'm involved with, but there is also the accessibility proposal. If folks working on that want to use that, they're absolutely free to. It's kind of like there is a field to select which proposal this is for, but if they prefer using a different tool, that's absolutely up to them. This is just for transparency and organization, so that you all can see the work in progress. And one of the items for that that was recently merged was using sharding for faster visual regression integration tests. This is just kind of a small step towards improving the developer experience for using the visual regression pipeline. But now the runtime has dropped from over 1 hour to under 15 minutes, which I think is a great success. There's potentially some things that we will need to improve, and all feedback is very welcome. So if you think that it should work differently, just let me know. I will iterate on that. Next step will be better updates. So basically the pipeline that we have for updating the Galata snapshots needs to be improved, and then trying to make sure that all different repositories and extensions can benefit from various improvements that we made along the way. If there's no questions, I will mentioned that previously in Jupyter collaboration / Jupyter YDoc, I highlighted a PR which resolved an issue with cell duplication, and I have an update on that. Unfortunately, the issue still persists. There is a link in the notes, and I'm also pasting the link in the chat. But based on a analysis that I performed, it unfortunately seems that YJS version 13 just has a problem with lists, and it cannot reconcile movement on the lists, especially with undo correctly. And the answer since 2022 was that the next version will support the move operation. But unfortunately, the next version has not materialized yet. Like there is v14 on NPM, but it's still as a pre-release. So yeah, we are working at different workarounds to make sure that the application never happens, especially not the destructive application that we saw so far. But yeah, there is a PR up for review. If someone wants to take a look and just highlighting that this issue still exists. Otherwise, the final point that I have, other than the JEP discussion, is the discussion on a couple of PRs in JupyterLab. But because there's many other people on the agenda, I will just share the link for the PRs which are labeled as need discussion, and we'll circle back to this topic once, if we have time at the end. Jason, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand the YJS thing. But what exactly is this PR doing?
So
does it fix the issue? Does it upgrade us to pre-release? Like,
no, the recommendation that Kevin posted in this thread, or many other people replied that they are doing this, is basically pretend that there is no problem and hide the duplicates, which we are already doing. Now, we were already doing that. The PR which solved the issue, or was supposed to solve the issue, that duplicated cells based on cell IDs in ynotebook.set. But it turns out that because set is not the only operation, and the synchronization happens on over WebSocket using AJS protocol, the cells can get duplicated separately. And when we use the get method to save the notebook, what happens is NB format corrects the non-unique cell IDs, and we never get to fix that in ynotebooks.set. So kind of the workaround so far helped for some scenarios, but didn't solve it completely. What I'm proposing in a PR is trying to always use the cell IDs as something which identifies the cells, and try to deduplicate if the cells are identical. Otherwise, do the same thing as NB format, which is replacing the duplicate cell IDs with something else. So if the cells are different, then fall back to the NB format behavior. But I'm also adding more metadata, more information about what happened in the warning, so that we can actually try to debug and understand the problem better in the future. I see a question, Sylvian. Would it be resolved with proper move operation in YJS? Yes, I hope. I have not tried upgrading to YJS v14 to test that hypothesis, but I hope it would.
It would need to be ported to the Rust implementation as well.
No, that's already done.
Okay.
PyCRDT does have support for it, and in fact, the PR which used ynotebook.set initially tried to use that, but then we realized that we cannot use move yet. So it's just waiting for YJS v14 formal final release. but so far the messaging from the author is that there is going to be more breakages. So like you can use it, the feature itself should be stable, the move feature, but other things might break without warning. So that's not necessarily doesn't inspire confidence to just moving to v14 on the front end.
And there's no stated release plan for 14, right?
Nothing officially.
Okay.
I think there are office hours for YJS on Friday afternoons. I would need to find the link. I know that David Rochard attends them on a regular basis. I'll update the notes.
Thank you. Okay, so I will yield the floor to Andre, I guess.
Yep. Hey, folks. So it's kind of a bit related to the previous conversation, and we also touched on the same topic a little bit tangentially last week, but unfortunately I couldn't speak. So I wanted to ask again, like participants of the current call and the community in general. So potentially running an automatic review, right, for all new PRs, and also maybe for issues for triaging, right, making sure that they're not duplicate, that they have like a problem statement, reproduction paths, and things like that. So in my mind, I thought that the project, the org has an access to free Copilot services and credits. Therefore, it was kind of like financing and things like that. I thought not are off topic because we have free access. So as far as I understand from the last discussion, it's not the case. So it complicates things a little bit. And then generally, maybe we should use other service, whatever. I'm just wanted to discuss the general, how generally would you think? Again, Mike mentioned that PRs seemed useful. We're finding things that might have been missed manually. And another argument is that reviewer can then come in, review this automated PR and like remove it or delete it or edit it or say, oh yeah, it's good. As a person who one of the people who does triaging, I think it would be nice for triaging. It seems that a lot of things that we do can be automated, like checking if there is a reproduction path, checking if it's a duplicate, and so on. And then we can just come in and review it. So yeah, would love any synchronous or asynchronous thoughts on this topic. Thank you.
Hey, you are probably aware of the work that Matthias produced on Trigent, which is available at the URL that I gave in the chat. And Trigent is quite interesting. It fetches all GitHub issues and pull requests for any repository. It builds a database, then it enriches them, and provides an MCP server with tools for searching, similarity matching, and doing some analytics. So it suggests things such as whether an old issue could have already been resolved by a PR, or whether it's a duplicate. And Matthias was able to close quite a few issues with this, thanks to the suggestions. So is this from Matthias? Maybe this is the output of Trigent.
I think
Yeah,
that's
I think it
probably
is.
what the relationship is. Yeah. Matthias
Yeah.
did a ton of work and showed us a month or two ago, here's my output.
It's really quite impressive and doesn't require like paying Copilot or anything. And really, we were able to, have many, many suggestions for issues to be closed. And most of them seemed right. And also it suggested issues that were neglected and seemed important and, severe. Yeah.
So I'm curious if this work has been updated or is kept up to date, this issue triage board, or if it was a one-time experiment.
No, it's been developed continuously over fall. It hasn't been worked on this January yet. I mean, this year yet, but it's probably going to be the focus again of Matthias sometime soon.
I love the Trident work that you did. Answering the question on whether that would be good to run automatically on either PRs or issues. So for PRs, I think we only so far established that at least one reviewer who uses their best judgment to ask for agentic review, the results with Copilot are good. It does not mean that running that on every single incoming PR will be worth it. And a good example of that is like I do believe that we should perform review incrementally, first pointing out the kind of obvious issues in the design, or kind of addressing the boulders first. There's a very nice methodology of like rocks, boulders, sand, and leaving the sand like the very small details to the end. And if we enable the Copilot review on every pull request, and we get some PRs suggesting to implement a completely new feature without first getting an agreement whether we want to implement it and what the API should roughly look like. I just worry that it will need these potentially new contributors to implement to work on addressing feedback on the level of sand. So basically details and linting and stuff like that, rather than thinking about the big picture, which is, I don't think these agentic tools are there yet, at least not without a lot of prompting on the context of how we design JupyterLab. So maybe not for PR reviews, and so far we could not enable that. We tried that yesterday, and that didn't work. But for issues, if there was something which listed potential duplicates with a confidence score, whether that based on AI or just old machine learning, I love that feature.
Thank you. Good points.
Okay, it looks like Andre, if that was the end of your item, we can go on to Ian.
Yes, thank you, Rosio. Hello, everyone. This is just an announcement that we are planning to release IPyKernel 7.2.0 on Friday. So if anybody's got any questions or problems, let us know as soon as possible. There's a list of changes in the notes. The key thing is implementation of the Xpub socket JEP. So at the moment, if lab or server want to know if a kernel's running, it sends a kernel info request, waits a bit, nothing happens. It assumes it's not, it sends another one. So we end up with lots of potential kernel info requests that are not necessary. With the use of an Xpub socket, then we can get a response sent to us directly rather than keep polling for the response. So we can hope, in the end, when this is working fully with client, server, lab, we should avoid sending whatever 10, 15 kernel info requests at the start of a kernel. Anyway, yeah, that's it. So yeah, any questions or problems, let me know as soon as possible, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. I think Mike, were you gonna?
I would just say that we should probably try to run tests on the latest release in JupyterLab to see just whether anything would fail. And I'm a bit worried about Friday releases in general. But yeah,
Sure. I mean, yeah, noted. I mean, I think I mean, Jason has been doing some good work on getting testing on later IPy kernel than in the main branch of lab, successfully, I think, almost successfully. Yeah, I'm also nervous of Friday releases, but I'm just the release manager. I won't be fixing the problems that happen. That will be Johan's job.
Okay, there are no other comments on Ian's announcement. I think up next is Sylvan.
Hey, I wanted to give a heads up that voting is opened for members of the SSC on a very old JEP for parameterized kernel specs. This JEP was opened in 2022, and we provided a full implementation as a reference for the JEP, and it allows having kernels that have parameters. So existing kernels that don't have parameters would work just the same. But if you have a kernel such as the C++ kernel, for which you may want to have different variants like C++ 11, 14, 20, or 23, you instead of having 4 kernel specs, you would have only one and pick the parameter upon startup of a new notebook. When opening an existing notebook that is already using a version, such parameters are recorded as part of the notebook format. And so, yeah, we, especially in the case of the C++ kernel, but other cases as well, we have a combinatory expression of the number of kernel specs that are displayed, because we have multiple versions of the C language and the C++ language, including different flags that we may want to pass or not, such as the level of optimization and the SIMD, instruction sets that is enabled, whether we enable CUDA or OpenNP, and so making it completely unmanageable without managing parameters. And so this JEP has gone through extensive discussions in the past 4 years, and we've reached a point where a vote was opened. And so if you want to comment, now is the time.
Just quick question, was all the previous comments addressed? Like, I know I made some comments about like whether we needed escapes for like string replacement syntax and whether these unsecure arguments.
I think the unsecure
Concerns.
part was completely addressed. What is, if my memory is not failing me, what is not addressed is all of the things that cannot be addressed with a parameterized kernel spec, meaning things for which you need a live object and really something like a provisioner of kernels or whatever. So it really is limited to specifying parameters as part of JSON schema for
Right.
kernels.
And for the string things, if you want to have a curly brace somewhere that isn't a thing, was that possible?
For the escaping?
Yeah. I don't know if it needs to be part of the spec, but I just quickly looking through it, that's the only comments I saw. I don't know if it was addressed at some point or not.
I would need to check. There are many pages of discussion on this. And
Yeah. That's why also
Anastasia went through it for several months to address all of the comments that were resolvable, and there are some things that mechanically cannot be addressed with parameterized kernel specs, and out of the scope of the JEP, which
so I don't think we should block on that either way if it's just a thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if we need to have some escaping there, it's good to get it in the spec as early as possible.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, is this something that could be seen as an, a review on the implementation, or?
Yeah, I don't know how we do standards at this point, right? There's a standards working group. So if the JEP is just saying we should have it, it should be roughly like this, and then the standards group kind of formalizes it. That's fine. Yeah, I see we only have 5 minutes left, so we don't need to discuss that in this call. Just flagging it.
I will just add that for the front end vote, if anyone opposes me voting yes, please do let me know by the end of the day. Otherwise, I intend to vote yes based on the previous discussion that was addressed. And I prefer if you send me a message on Jupyter Zulip chat. That's the sure way to make sure. That's a way to make sure that you've reached me.
Awesome. Thank you all. I think the last on our agenda and 4 minutes before the end of our call, we have Constantine.
Hey everyone, just to close out this call, we reached 700 published extension that support JupyterLab 4 as of 2 hours ago. And for context, at JupyterCon in November, we were at 600. So there's 100 new extensions since JupyterCon. Yeah, is there interest to write like a short thing highlighting all the new extensions and just how many of them there are, and so that people know? Nice. I'll put something together.
I see Jason reacted on the note
Yeah.
saying yes with an exclamation mark. So
Cool.
Is it JupyterLab only, or kind of like Jupyter?
It's JupyterLab only.
But
So it doesn't
many of these
catch.
extensions are also compatible with Notebook. Is that correct, or is it like?
No. So no, not all of them, right? I think you need to specifically design your extension that it would work. And I haven't tested, and something I highlighted somewhere that there is no perhaps there's no metadata for that. So
Yeah, no trove classifier.
I think there's
this is
no
what we
trove
have.
classifier for
Yeah.
that, if I remember correctly. So
we just don't know. Like
we just
we
don't
could
know.
rename the marketplace to Jupyter Marketplace, and
Yeah.
it would be like, well, we do not have a filter. Okay, that's something that we can probably easily address.
Yeah, I think if it's possible to open pull request to add a new trove classifier and having a discussion there. If people agree, we can add. I'm not sure because I'm not sure if historical extensions would add that. I was trying to chase people to add existing lab trove classifiers, and in most cases they added them, but it's all self-reported.
If I think this requires usually some consensus from the project and community. I mean, the Python Packaging Authority needs that. So if you'd like to open an issue, I'm happy to upvote the issue, and then we can open the PR, adding this classifier.
Yeah.
And
Perhaps the
maybe
issue needs to be in the notebook repo, right?
somewhere in Jupyter, really. I think it doesn't matter because like we are seen as Project Jupyter. But yeah, I think notebook repo would be good. We can then discuss like how do we present this information in notebook.
Yeah, and another thing, I see Sylvan joke in there. I'm not sure how many of them. I think we can scan, but I'm not sure how many of them would work in the light, in Jupyter Light. That's something I would want to see as well. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Constantine. With that, we've reached the end of the agenda. Thanks everyone for joining us today. It was great to see you all, and we will hope to see you next week as well.